Minjun asked in surprise, "Huh, what is that? What is it eating? A monster?" The Cyclops monster chewed on the monster while glaring at Minjun. Minjun stood looking at the monster. The angry Cyclops monster held the lower half of the monster's body in his mouth and screamed. Cyclops threw the lower half of his body to the ground. Minjun saw that and jumped back. Minjun looked at Cyclops and thought to himself, tonight's menu is fried chicken, right? I want to finish making it as soon as possible so I can go home to eat. Minjun saw a target in the distance and immediately thought, that must be the target I have to miss to be eliminated. If I shoot carelessly and hit it, I'd be very unlucky. The Cyclops monster stepped out of the smoke and raised its hand to attack Minjun. Minjun thought, but why is that bastard so annoying? Minjun reached back and gathered force into his fist. Minjun and the Cyclops monster exchanged 2 punches. Dark power filled the room. The Cyclops monster's arm was broken. Cyclops' arm that had just punched Minjun was broken, causing the Cyclops monster to scream in pain. The Cyclops monster stepped back. Minjun smiled and said, finally calm down a bit, now I have to shoot you down. Minjun suddenly noticed something happened. From the severed arm of the transforming Cyclops monster, Cyclops' severed arm has turned into a large sword. Outside, on the bulletin board, the demon face representing the monster in Minjun Street suddenly lit up. The soldiers were yelling in panic and asked, what's going on? Are the new soldiers in combat mode? Is there an accident or something? The soldiers waiting for training immediately stirred, and Kim Minji, the manager, was also surprised and frightened. Minji thought, the second monster on line 2, that's a Cyclops. Also known as the voracious demon, once it uses energy, its regeneration and attack abilities increase sharply until digestion is complete. But there's something strange, it won't attack unless its life is in danger, and besides, it escaped confinement and went on a rampage after eating another monster. What provoked it? In the training room, the Cyclops monster continuously attacked Minjun but Minjun easily dodged. Minjun jumped in front of Cyclops. Cyclops immediately attacked Minjun. Minjun held the gun in his hand and said, oh my, what an energetic son of a bitch. Minjun reloads the KX-2 and says it will be easier to defeat you. But this is supposed to be weapons training, Minjun said as he shot the Cyclops monster in the eye. Cyclops shot through the eye but still lived. The monster screamed in pain. While Cyclops was screaming to regenerate his eyes, Minjun quickly landed and ran to approach the monster. While running, Minjun reloaded his gun and thought, it seems like its eyes regenerate more slowly, I should end it now. The Cyclops monster realized something and turned sharply towards Minjun. Minjun was rushing towards him. The Cyclops monster slashed in Minjun's direction. The Cyclops monster slashed Minjun's head as he ran over. Time seemed to stop for Minjun. Minjun looked at the sword next to his neck and thought, look at that bastard. He aimed exactly where I was standing. Could he see, or could he sense it by sound, or something else? The Cyclops monster's slash went all the way. Minjun was able to lean back in time to avoid the attack. The Cyclops monster didn't stop, using his other hand to hit where Minjun was standing. Cyclops suddenly stopped. Under Cyclops' hand, Minjun's hand blocked Cyclops' attack. Minjun said, that's strange. There's no way they would use a violent monster like this for training, and I covered its eyes, but somehow it discovered my location twice in a row. At this moment, Minjun's body radiated dark power. Minjun's whole body was surrounded by dark power. Even killing intent was revealed. Minjun said, are you reacting to my dark energy? The door to the training room suddenly opened. Minji came in fully armed. Minji thought to herself, this is a disaster, why did this happen to a new soldier? While running towards Minjun's room, Minji thought, it's all my fault, a Cyclops that can use energy is not something a private can defeat with just a gun. Kim Minjun, don't die, just try harder. In the other room, Guang Shik was running quickly towards the exit. Guang Shik looked at his watch and thought, okay, I'll time it for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, that private kid won't be able to stop my speed. He failed as I expected. What should I do with that bastard's salary? It's okay to use it on vacation. As soon as Guang Shik ran to the exit, Minjun was standing in front of the button. Minjun was looking at the button when Guang Shik suddenly shouted loudly and asked, why are you still here? Minjun heard the noise and looked over. Minjun smiled complacently and pressed the button to open the exit door. Guang Shik saw this and shouted loudly, sweating. Kim Minji ran to Minjun's training room and was surprised. Minji looked at the Cyclops monster's body and asked, how can you defeat it like this later? After going out, everyone outside immediately cheered. The soldiers gathered at the exit clapped and cheered. No one completed the first special weapons training course within 2 minutes. The new soldiers are monsters. That private defeated a Cyclops himself. I swear I thought there would be an accident. Dongjin quickly ran to ask Minjun, are you okay? Do you hurt anywhere? Minjun replied, Private Lee Dongjun, I'm fine, no pain at all. Everyone gathered around Minjun. Dongjun asked, so relieved, how did you defeat it? Minjun smiled and replied, I defeated it the way you taught me. Dongjun asked again, like I taught you. Guang Shik lost to the newbie then left angrily. A soldier stood up and asked, isn't this team betting? Anyway, the rookie won, right? Guang Shik angrily walked over and hit the back of the soldier's head who had just stood up to ask. Guang Shik said, do you want to die or something? It's not fair, so let's cancel the bet. Everyone present shouted loudly asking, cancel the bet. Guang Shik pointed at Minjun and said, there's no way I can finish faster than the newbie. The special weapons training is designed to defeat 2 monsters before reaching the destination. I've already defeated 2, that's the rule. But what about new recruits? What about new glasses? He only faced 1. See, it's not fair. If I also met 1, it would have been completed faster. Lee Dongjun, why didn't you say anything? Is it fair? Dongjun was scared, just Guang Shik immediately pressured Dongjun, say something quickly, or he will die. Minjun stood behind Dongjun silently but secretly thought, he is the worst person. Although this is quite surprising, I don't feel good about defeating monsters with my fists, so I plan to forget about the bet. And now this is how he acts. Why is he making trouble with Private Lee Dongjun instead of me? At this moment, Guang Shik grabbed Dongjun's collar and said, answer me, Lee Dongjun. Dongjun is scared but trying to say, Corporal Guang Shik, please let me go. Everyone surrounded the 3 people laughing. Suddenly a voice interrupted and said, Guang Shik, aren't you embarrassed? New recruits take higher risks. Guang Shik couldn't understand that sentence and immediately turned around and shouted angrily, what a bastard. That soldier said, normally Cyclops are very gentle, but once they react, the danger increases significantly. I thought no one knew. I have to face much greater difficulties than you. Everyone saw the soldier's face and was surprised. Everyone called out, Sergeant Lee Sonho. When Guang Shik saw that it was Sonho, he calmed down and smiled and said, well. Guang Shik smiled awkwardly and asked, are you trying to show your rank in front of your juniors? Sonho replied, he was the one who did it first. Guang Shik was angry but still tried to laugh and said, oh my, okay, don't be so embarrassed in front of the kids, just kidding, don't be too tense. Sonho asked again, joking. Sonho walked over and nudged Guang Shik on the shoulder and said, everything that isn't what you think is a joke, you haven't changed, anyway. It's amazing that you have a higher rank, Corporal Guang Shik, because the stubborn mules that were once your seniors surprisingly became docile in front of you. Minjun stood from afar and heard this, silently wondering, is that so? Guang Shik blushed when Sonho said that and couldn't say anything. Sergeant Lee Sonho was carrying the box of equipment and urged, what are you guys doing? Stop standing there looking, set up shields now. The other 2 soldiers turned around and said, Sergeant Lee Sonho, sir, the thing is, right now. Private Kim Minjun was, the image of Minjun enthusiastically destroying each enemy one by one caught everyone's eyes. Lee Sonho heard it and immediately said, what? Listen you bastards, a private is attracting their attention, but you're just standing there watching. Everyone else said in unison, excuse me. Kim Minjun used his bare hands to rip off the bat's wings. He sighed tiredly, thinking to himself, it took too much time because I had to tear them apart one by one. Was there nothing useful? From behind there was a loud scream, Kim Minjun, this bastard. He instinctively turned around. Lee Sonho angrily grabbed an electric baton and ran to scold him. Lower your ego and step back. What do you think you're doing? You don't even have a bulletproof vest. Minjun didn't listen to his words and continued to develop his ability, thinking to himself, why the hell are you lowering your ego? They're all mine, don't even think about it. He glanced at Lee Sungho's hand and saw an electric baton. Kim Minjun became even more interested, smiling and thinking, ho ho, that looks interesting. Suddenly, an electric current ran through Lee Sungho's body. His face became unsightly and he cursed, damn it, why is my stomach acting up right now? Kim Minjun walked closer and asked, Sergeant Lee Sungho, what's wrong, sir? Are you okay? Lee Sungho held his stomach with one hand, one leg bent down and replied with difficulty, I'm fine. Kim Minjun asked again, are you sure? So then let me borrow that for a bit. Lee Sungho firmly refused, no, you need to step back. Kim Minjun picked up the electric baton and injected energy into it, causing it to emit electricity. He said, don't worry about me, I'll be back as soon as I deal with him, thinking, oh, this is great, a blister. Swatting flies with electricity. Kim Minjun smiled with satisfaction, now. Let's go. Minjun started running straight to the bats. If the electric grenade hits any bat, it will be destroyed immediately. Kim Minjun frantically ran from place to place, destroying each bat. Lee Sungho opened his eyes in surprise, this guy. Overwhelming the intermediate level, the image of Kim Minjun moving flexibly killing bats one by one caught Lee Sung-ho's eyes. A soldier carrying a roll of rope raised his head, eyes wide, and spoke loudly. "Ah, that bat, a bat preparing to spit out a fireball." The fire had reached the bat's mouth and was about to fly straight to the oil barrels. Lee Sung-ho quickly ordered, "Shoot, I will take all responsibility, so just shoot." The two soldiers obeyed, "Yes, boss." A soldier raised his gun, preparing to shoot at the bat. Suddenly he opened his eyes bewildered. "Hey, intermediate level, haven't you heard? If you play with fire," Kim Minjun jumps up behind and says the bat is about to shoot a fireball. "You'll get burned, you hit that bat hard." It was frightened by the light of the electric current, so the fireball also disappeared. Minjun on top handled the bat with electricity. Everyone below looked up and wondered, how the hell did he get up there? Who knows, more importantly, how high did he jump? Cable is plugged into a device. The defense shield for the oil reserve has been completely established. The defense shield has been activated. Make sure to check the cables carefully. What about the bats? How long will it take to collect all the bat corpses? Everyone is very busy. Lee Sung-ho heard the call. He turned around. Lee Sung-ho put his hand on his forehead. "Hello." The officer walked over and said, "Yeah, good job. But where did they come from? We never detected them on the radar." The officer waved his hand. "Ha, the smell of grilled bats is really bad. Who grilled them? How many of them are there in total?" Lee Sung-ho replied loudly, "A total of 30, sir." Then he thought to himself, "I was wondering where the commander was." The officer in charge of the mission was Captain Song Junshik. Lee Sung-ho reported, "The battalion commander just left." Song Junshik replied, "Okay, even if he's not good at fighting, it's not okay for an awakened operator to be absent from the situation urgent and only appears when everything is resolved." Lee Sung-ho thought to himself, he probably only saw the monsters from the radar, from the control center. Song Junshik spoke, "Anyway, Sung-ho, you are the one in charge of removing the flood, right? I will definitely tell the battalion commander." Lee Sung-ho spoke up, "Not me." Song Junshik was quite surprised and asked, "What, then who did it? Is there someone else in the battalion who has the same skill with batons as you?" Lee Sung-ho reported seriously, "Not everyone was killed by electric batons, but all 30 bats were defeated by one person. Please be sure to report this." Song Junshik couldn't believe his ears. He questioned, "What, are you on my lap now? Are you saying these torn bats were also killed by the same person?" All the operators were thinking, if not you, then someone. Another step forward. "Hello, I came to return you this electric baton, sir." Heard a sound coming from behind. Song Junshik glanced back. Kim Minjun held the broken baton that was leaking electricity and asked, "Is this thing very expensive?" When Kim Guang Shik heard Sergeant Lee Sung-ho say that, he blushed and gritted his teeth until his face was deformed. He was humiliated. Lee Sung-ho calmly turned his head and asked, What do you want?" Kim Guang Shik forced a smile, awkwardly waved his hand and replied, "Ha, no, of course not." Then Lee Sung-ho immediately spoke up, "Yes, Kim Guang Shik." He shouldn't say anything more. He could only grit his teeth and bow his head to listen to Lee Sung-ho answer as he walked away, much to everyone's surprise. Now the sky has turned to the orange color of sunset. The sound of gossip is heard. "So you say that Sergeant Lee Sung-ho was promoted to 2 ranks?" "Yes, this is a special case. Because he got the highest rank in the advanced exam. However, even though he was able to get a 2-level increase, the special status no longer has the energy." Lee Dongjun held the broom and explained, "They got rid of it because there was once a sergeant who was promoted but then caused an incident in the dungeon, and Sergeant Lee Sung-ho was one of the last cases." Kim Minjun wondered, "So there is no way to get special treatment anymore?" Lee Dongjun answered him, "There are exceptions, like if you can rescue civilians in an emergency." Lee Dongjun touched his chin and continued, "Or if he achieved excellent results in monster hunting, but all of those cases were quite subjective. It was best for him to think that such a rule did not exist. No other hunter has ever been specially promoted." "I understand." Kim Minjun said he understood on the surface, but in his heart he was thinking, subjectively, then the commander has the final say. "Even if I don't get promoted, I don't want danger to fall on the civilians, but it seems peaceful here, even though they said monsters appear every day since the military invasion." The North Korean team was wiped out, he thought, imagining monsters chasing civilians. Lee Dongjun smiled and said to him, "Because you are doing very well now, I'm sure you will be promoted soon." Minjun said with a dumbfounded face, "The experience of being a private for 2 days is more than enough. I got promoted right away." Seeing you look dumbfounded, Lee Dongjun asked, "Did you hear that?" Kim Minjun screamed inside, "Oh God, I wish a portal would appear right now." The siren sounded. Lee Dongjun turned his head in shock. Kim Minjun looked blank and still didn't understand what was going on. Sounds from loudspeakers rang out. Orders were broadcast from the control center. Emergency alarm, emergency alarm. a significant number of mid-level bats appeared in the oil reserve. All hunters were instructed to quickly gather at the oil reserve and set up defensive shields immediately. Lee Dongjun said, "Here it is again. It's an emergency alarm. Minjun, let's go." Kim Minjun's face was as happy as finding gold, silently wondering, really? Intermediate bat, a monster about the size of a child, living in caves. Each individual is not much of a threat, but they are exceptionally agile. Furthermore, they can spit fireballs from their mouths. So their appearance in the oil reserve is an emergency where the entire military run could be blown away. Two soldiers standing outside the gate of the oil reserve looked in horror at the bats flying above. A young man spoke up, "How many bats are there?" The remaining young man picked up his gun, pointed it at the bats and said excitedly, "How dare they appear here?" The young man next to him quickly stopped him. "Are you crazy? You can't open fire near the oil reserve. What if they attack us here?" The young man who was pointing the gun lowered his gun and turned to ask the other person, "So you mean I can only stand and watch them like that?" The other person explained, "They haven't approached the oil depot yet, just keep observing the situation." "Well, since I've already reported it, I'm sure someone will be sent to set up a defense shield." The man who pointed the gun asked, "What if the monsters burned down the oil depot before the defense shields were placed?" The other man said, just barely able to speak, "If that happened." The two of them imagined that scene together. Boom, a loud explosion rang out. Just thinking about it made him scared, the person pointing the gun said. They both broke their heads in confusion. The other asked, "What should we do?" The other replied, "I don't know. Why did those bastards come to this place?" Suddenly someone walked up and spoke, "I will attract their attention." The two soldiers heard the voice and instinctively turned to look. Kim Minjun walked up with enthusiasm. Both of them said loudly in surprise, "Huh, aren't you the rookie of the Second Army?" Seeing Kim Minjun with his hands in his pockets, calmly walking closer to the bats, the other two stopped him. "Hey, what the hell are you planning to do? You don't even have any equipment with you. Come back immediately." Hearing the other two stop, Minjun just thought to himself, "Equipment, who has the free time?" When the distinguished guests who helped me get promoted were waiting for me, the sky was filled with a flock of bats, flying around as if the whole sky was theirs. Along with the title, "The Private Who Single-Handedly Prevented an Emergency That Could Blow Up the Entire Military Camp," I will also absorb all the experience points. This may not be right. Kim Minjun just spread out his arms, preparing to deploy his abilities. The veins in his hand began to pop out, along with red flames surrounding their hands. He remembered the Cyclops he had just met the day before. He defeated it alone without difficulty. The bats seemed to know that he was planning to fight with him, so they also started screaming as a challenge. The flock of bats flying around made Minjun excitedly think, standing as expected, "These bastards are reacting to my dark energy." Kim Minjun smiled triumphantly, "Then you are all mine." A group of soldiers are moving equipment to the oil reserve. "Hurry up, don't damage the equipment." While moving, the leading soldier suddenly stopped so the two collided. The soldiers following behind asked confusedly, "Huh, why did you stop?" The leading soldier said in shock, "Over there." The person behind him asked, "Hey, what's going on?" Then he was shocked and opened his mouth. "Huh,